Hello, everyone. How you doing? Good to be back. And had some medical issues, and but feeling a lot better. And Russ, what's going on?
I'm going to be working on an article for Sportsology on the NHL refereeing situation. I don't want to play into this whole thing about it just being one game. It's really been like a whole season of a lot of bad calls. And the thing that got me the most yesterday when I was watching the Eagles-Bills game was a couple of times the referees made a call on the field that they knew was wrong, but this way it could be reviewed, so it would be taken out of their hands. And I think once that happens, your whole system is broken. And I think the whole system is broken.
Well, I mean, okay. And again, when a team loses, and being somebody who's a journalist, it's, I've gained more perspective when it comes to officiating. But I don't cover the NFL. The NHL, I think it's different with baseball and basketball. It's different. With the NFL, honestly, I've noticed, and I've said this on the show a few times, over the last few years, it's almost like they call these games to keep them artificially close. And normally there's not a home field advantage when it comes to officiating, but when it's 10-1 in terms of penalties, and Buffalo is an undisciplined team, so there's no doubt about that. But when Josh Allen gets horse collar tackled and they don't call it, when two of their wide receivers get mugged for pass interference and they don't call it, when there's a receiver within a few yards of him trying to throw the ball and he's outside of the pocket and they call intentional grounding, which cost them from second and goal on the 3 to third and goal on the 16. A lot of people in Buffalo are saying this is fixed. Do I think it's fixed? No. I just think the NFL officiating is incompetent, and that's why I said before the game I thought the Bills were going to lose, and that's why it didn't make me actually upset when they did lose, and I didn't even watch the overtime because I knew they were going to lose. So,
but it took, on that perspective, it took a 60-yard kick in the rain and an overtime period for them to lose. So
it could have been 80 yards and they would have
but it wasn't a guarantee they were going to lose.
No.
It could have been an 80-yard field goal and he would have hit it through the uprights.
I thought they were going to win. But the point is, Zach, you can't call things on the field now that you're expecting to get bailed out by video. And like Mike said, I thought it was a horse collar call. But even the second choice would have been a sack and not intentional grounding.
Right. And
or 15-yard loss.
Or Russ, it could have been a fumble, which that was disputable.
Right.
It could have been a fumble, and it was fumbled forward, and the Bills tight end fell on it at the 8-yard line, so it would have been third. They picked the placement and the call that was the worst for the Bills.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that, but I'm just going to say there were 4 choices there.
Yeah.
And the choice they made was incredible to me.
Yep. And playing the role of Taylor Swift yesterday, folks, was Bradley Cooper, who they showed in the press box, in the box.
He's always
is he at every game?
He's at every game.
I mean, I know
Jeffrey Lurie.
I know he's a big
talking about it.
I know he's a big Eagles fan, and he played an Eagles fan in Silver Lining Playbook. But Jesus Christ, they kept showing him every 5 seconds.
Well, no. Now he's doing a Leonard Bernstein movie.
Oh, I know.
Oh, okay. The Maestro or something. He was talking about
Maestro.
That.
Yes.
All right. Well, I watched the game. I didn't watch it very carefully. It was on in the background, but I watched it very carefully in the end, which was exciting. And
it was an amazing game.
Back and forth. Yeah, I know. Not a great ending for Buffalo, but I thought Buffalo. I mean, watching teams play the Eagles this year, I thought Buffalo played the Eagles as hard as anybody played them for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but they lost. And
almost as hard as the Jets, but not quite because the Jets got that win.
That's crazy still. All right, let's get going here. Back to the world. Oh, Hockey World is Monday, November 27th, 2023.
I'm Michael Agello, and the Buffalo Bills blow.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology. I can't disagree.
And that's Buzz. And it's Stella and Panda, remind me. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday, filling on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And I wanted to touch base today because over the weekend now we have passed American Thanksgiving, which is
thank God,
big, imaginary thing in the sky for these for NHL GMs.
One down, one to go, folks.
I know. It's the only reason that people know, I think, in America that there is a Canadian Thanksgiving is because they call it in hockey the American Thanksgiving all the time.
But God forbid we can't call it Columbus Day. It's got to be what, Indigenous Peoples Day.
Don't go there, Mike.
They took it away from an Italian. There you go.
Yeah, well, let's move on. The American Thanksgiving point is always a tough one. And last year, if you remember, I did a lot of research on this concept of how many points you needed to have at 20 games to make the playoffs. Remember, I did this whole thing. Yeah. I did it at that point to prove the fact that I thought the Devils were going to go to indeed make the playoffs last year, and they did. But and at this point, you guys were saying they weren't going to make the playoffs last year, but 7 points. 27 points is his magic number of 20 at the 20 game mark.
You're talking about the Islanders?
Over the last 10 years. No, last year with the Devils. The Devils were off to a good start last year, and no one thought they were going to make the playoffs.
No, that's true. You're right.
And I said if a team has 27 points and they had like 30 points at the 20 game mark, if you have 27 points at the 20 game mark, only 2 teams in the last decade haven't made the playoffs with 27 points at the 20 game mark, which is a crazy number. So this year, let's look and see who's there. And to me, that it's kind of a fascinating thing because I went and do it on my blog, and I'll bring it up on my phone, but just so I can get the details right on this. But it is kind of interesting who's there, who's not there, because not getting there is usually. Well,
it's a good line of demarcation that you've made because there are a lot of teams close.
There's a lot of teams really close. Okay, so
you said 27 points?
27 points in 20 games. Now, the team, not everybody's played 20 games, so some of this is a little bit, so right. What is it? I listed that there's currently 7 teams with 27 points in 20 games, or still with a shot at getting the 27 points in 20 games.
Right.
7 teams. That would be Boston and the Rangers. Boston and the Rangers are the only 2 teams in the East. And in the West, Colorado, Dallas, Vegas, the Kings, and Vancouver. Mm-hmm. So you're looking at all teams there that are very likely, those 7 teams are very likely in the playoffs. It's not a big shocker, but
I think they'll all make it. Vancouver was the only one I doubted in the preseason, but then they showed me by being able to stay healthy this first quarter, and that I think they can make it.
I still have some doubts. I can't take away what's going on right now because Demko's playing great, and Hughes is having a season for the ages and all everything, but they have massive holes still. And those star players are covering them up.
They do, but it's about time the star players covered up some of their holes.
That's true.
They've been there for a couple of years now, and I keep thinking when you have like one of the top forwards in the league, one of the top defense in the league, and one of the best goalies in the league, you have to have you have to be a playoff team. Like in my opinion, it's very rarely you'll find a team that has that and doesn't make the playoffs. Now the bubble teams that are in there right now are this. So Florida's got 26 points in 20 games. They're a really good shot at making it. Detroit's 25 points in 20 games. Tampa's 25 points in 20 games. Or actually 22 games. Winnipeg has 26 points in 20 games. Washington has 22 points in 17 games. So, they've got a shot still, but they have 3 more games to get to 24, 26. Yeah, they could get to 28 points if they won those 3 games. So, the Caps have a chance, actually. And Toronto with 23 points in 19 games. Mm-hmm. So the Leafs are behind pace for sure, at least 2 points behind pace right now.
Right.
So what does this mean? When you look at that, if you look at those teams all there, you've got 14 teams. Okay, the 7 that we said are going to definitely be in it. The 7 that are on the bubble, they have probably a good chance of being in it. Which means that we really have a small chance here at some of these at making the playoffs right now. Basically, unless you're in the top, 17 teams or top 15 teams.
Right.
Sorry.
So some of them have weird circumstances. So one of them with weird circumstances are Tampa.
Yeah.
They got this far without goalie. Now their goalie's back.
Right.
Which makes you think they do have a chance because Vasilevsky's back, and they did all of that without Vasilevsky. So I got to believe they're in the hunt.
Well, the other team similar to that is Florida,
right?
Who were bad in October and really good in November, and Sam Reinhart had a really good month, and now in the last week they just got Montour and Ekblad, so they survived with Kulikov and Mikkola and Oliver Ekman-Larsson, and now they've got those guys back. So I think they're in it. I think they're really in it. I do. Right.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty solid in it when you look at it, where they're sitting right now. They could fall. I mean, they could fall out, but I predict them for second in the division. They're right where they are. I did not pick Boston for first in the division, but not many people did.
But Boston. I mean, we've got to stop. We must stop predicting the demise of the Boston Bruins because
I didn't this year. I went with them.
Right. Well, no. I mean, I did last year, and they won the President's Trophy by 5,000 points. And this year, I thought, okay, Bergeron and Krejci are retiring, so they're going to take a step back. And I think if there was a global thermonuclear war, the Boston Bruins would still be in first place in the Atlantic Division. You can't kill them. The system. Their goaltenders are great. Now, if they get enough scoring, and they're getting enough scoring right now out of Pasternak, and Zacha is playing pretty well, and Marchand is still Marchand.
Yeah,
I still think at the end of the year they're going to have to add a center to have some success in the playoffs. But they're just a system team, and they wear teams down, and they annoy the crap out of people, and they're just great. That's it.
That's true. They really they've done all this. I picked them to make the playoffs as a wild card team. I thought that they could fall, but I didn't think the best team in the history of the NHL could fall out of the playoffs. I just found like it was a hard thing to do. But I thought they were going to be a wild card.
I thought they were going to be a wild card team. That's what I thought.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
So, but the elephant in the room in this one, to me, it's not the Winnipeg Jets. I had faith in them all year. I feel like the contracts being signed was a big weight off of them, and Blake Wheeler being out of there, being in New York was good for both franchises. I think he needed to leave. But the big elephant in the room is the Leafs, because right now, according to Eck, they wouldn't make it.
Well,
I mean, they have a really bad. I mean, they're not likely to make it because it doesn't say you don't have to get to 27 points to make it. But if you get to 27 points, you've got a 98% chance of making it. Now, the most they can get to is 25 points. So they've got a shot at making it, but still they're not a shoo-in by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, okay, I'll just say this. Through 19 games, going to be 20 tomorrow night when they play Florida.
Right.
They really have not. They had a 4-game winning streak and really didn't play very well during the 4-game winning streak. They've ridden this this 17-game point streak of Nylander, where everybody is basically saying he's the second coming of Matt Sundin, Kent Nielsen, and every other Swede, and then then he doesn't score points in 2 consecutive, and he's crap. So it's so I mean, right now, Marner and Matthews are not clicking. They've now split them up, and they put Marner on Tavares' line and Nylander on Matthews' line. So they're shaking things up there. We know their defensive issues. They were shorthanded of 3 of their top 6 defensemen for about 3 weeks, and they're just getting some of them back. Yeah. And their goaltending, I mean, I have to say it. I wrote something a couple days ago. Ilya Samsonov is now in a long line of disappointing, mediocre Leaf goaltenders. Yeah. He had one good year. They signed him. He went to arbitration. He had a year where basically it was a prove it deal. Go ahead. If you show us you can play, we're going to sign you to a big contract. So far, he's sucking the tailpipe. He's been terrible. And Joseph Woll is somebody with about 12 games of NHL experience. So I think he's capable of being a number 1. But with that team's defense, they're really, they're really potentially going to expose a young kid to to the privations of their defense, and that's a risk. Russ, I think he's capable, but with that team's defense, it might, they might.
It's not helping him. I watched that game the other day, and he was okay.
Yeah,
but there were just times when, he's going to have to make this unbelievable, monstrous save because the other team's getting high danger.
That's the way the Leafs always play, right? That's not to be unexpected. I mean, the Leafs are going to be a back and forth team.
But the idea is what's unexpected is their choice in goalie is failing. And so the backup choice is the guy who's really a year or 2 away. Right. They wanted to groom as a backup. Right. And now, so the age-old question is, what if they had to play Boston in the playoffs in the first round?
They're getting smoked. Are you kidding me? I mean, of course they are. I mean, that's the issue.
That's what drives me crazy. Right. It has to drive people crazy.
Right, because, and again, why is this happening? Well, it's because you're spending 50% of your salary cap on 4 forwards. And what's going to happen? Because, more than likely you're right, Russ. They're going to sign Nylander to a long-term deal. They're going to sign him for over $10 million. And then next year, when they have all, the 2 guys on new deals and the two guys in Marner and Tavares on the last year of their old deal, they're going to have $45 million assigned to 4 forwards, and good luck trying to stockpile a defense and find a goaltender with that remaining, $43 million? Good luck.
I mean,
It's a recipe for disaster.
Just talk Leafs, but I do want to bring it up, because I think that there are 4 of those 4 signings, there's 4 key signings, Mike, that they have out there. So Tavares, Marner, Matthews, and Nylander.
Yep.
Right. Who is the most disappointing for their contract? I mean, you can make the argument.
Well, okay, you're talking about this year or for the totality of the contract?
In the whole thing of the contract. I mean, right now Nylander is playing really, really well, but I could say that Tavares has been great, but not super great. He's been
Right. Okay. First of all, you have to factor in it was a free agent deal, so you had to overpay him. Has he been an $11 million player? No. Has he been a really good player? Yes. And again, this is going back, and I've had this debate before, but this is going back to Lou Lamoriello in 2017 not signing Nylander when he had a year left in his contract because it was against the Lou rules to sign a player. So then 2018 his contract comes up. Lou gets canned. He goes to the Islanders. Dubas is in there, and there's a holdout for 5 months of Nylander. And in the end, they succumb to Nylander's demands. And he, based on what he's doing right now, $7 million is a good deal. But they didn't get him for 8 years. They got him for 6 years. And they could have traded him, or they could have signed him the year before. And then because they succumbed to him, they succumbed to Matthews and they succumbed to Marner, and you've got the situation that you have right now. It was a domino effect, and everybody says the mistake was Tavares. No, the mistake was Nylander the year before.
Here, This is going to be unfair, and Mike's right. Tavares isn't worth the money, but they need the John Tavares type player. They don't have enough players like that, and guys who will stand up, and guys who will win a big faceoff, and guys. So it's really, to me, it's Marner, and it's crazy because he's more than a point a game, but he doesn't seem as impactful every game, and that's my issue with Marner right now.
Well, he's a facilitator.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. He really never is
supposed to be a play driver, but he was more than that. A facilitator is one thing. He's supposed to be a play driver. He's a little more special than just the assist guy.
Yeah, and if you ask Austin Matthews, the reason that he won the Hart and the reason that he won the Rocket Richard was because Marner had 99 points that year, and most of them were feeding him for 60 goals. I mean, this year he's not having a particularly good year, but he has these stretches where he doesn't play well, and then he'll go great guns for 20 games, and everybody will forget it. But the problem is not one individual player. The problem is the totality of what they're paying them and what paying them prevents them from doing. And, they were up against it within like $50 of the salary cap before John Klingberg went down. And now, it's like they found money in their pockets because John Klingberg is probably going to have hip surgery and be out the rest of the year. So, now they have $4 million on the cap that they can go out and use. But that's the problem. They're always cap strapped because they're paying 4 guys more than they would have had to pay them had they managed things correctly.
Well, but also to be fair to them, these deals were all pre-pandemic deals. Like there was no saying that the salary, if the salary cap goes up at a normal rate, those deals are probably fine. So it's like the reality is like that also played into it in a big way.
Yes, and that was the bet. That the cap would grow and they'd be able to add players. But the problem is the cap didn't grow.
It was a safe bet, though. I mean, besides the pandemic, it was a safe bet. I mean, that would have been a bet that any of us would have made. I mean, that there was no saying that the caps were going to stop growing. It was growing at a really strong rate, and it was, going to keep going. Now, there's other teams on this list that are fascinating to me too. One is the Capitals. I mean, the Capitals, having 22 points in 17 games, and after starting off really badly too.
Well, the funny
I did not in a million years think they're going to be a playoff team.
Well, the funny thing about the Caps is that nobody knows how they're doing it because, like Charlie Lindgren wins 4 games in a row, who's their backup when Kemper was out. Their offense right now, I mean, I think Ovechkin, I'm not looking at it right this second. 1
point ahead of Carlson.
Yeah, Ovechkin was leading the team in scoring, and he's only got 5 goals.
But
So I mean, they're not getting a ton of offense. They're getting the situational offense. Here's the wild thing: Spencer Carberry was the Leafs assistant coach in charge of their power play. They were one of the top power plays in the league. Right. He goes to Washington, who's got Carlson, who's got Ovechkin, and they're 32nd in the league.
Yeah,
in the power play.
I think they're the outlier, and I think in the NHL, you win 5 games in a row, you look like the Capitals.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that's the big question I have, but Bryce?
Nothing says they can hold it. Nothing.
It could be. I mean, they could be the team that can hold it.
Ovechkin's got 12 points in 17 games, and he's their leading scorer.
Right. But Detroit now is another one to look at. Like they are, I mean, we all thought they'd be better. And then for a while, they looked terrible too.
I didn't. I had them last place. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but they're doing better than I thought. But also,
25 points in 20 games, they're close.
Well, DeBrincat's on a heater, though. He's not going to stay like this.
Yeah.
That's what's fueling them mostly.
They're riding the hot goaltending of Alex Lyon right now.
Yeah, which also is not going to hold.
He deserves some more credit than he's getting.
Sure.
Alex Lyon has done good perform when he's been asked to.
Lyon's a good backup in the league.
Right.
But like I said, I don't think DeBrincat will keep up this pace. And I have been a very big DeBrincat supporter. So I still don't think I still don't think the Red Wings make it.
Well, their worst goaltender has been the guy who started the most games, which is Ville Husso.
Right.
His record is good.
Which is the one thing I said is that I did not believe in him.
Right. He's got his goals against of over 3 and a save percentage under 900. So they need him to be closer to what they're getting out of Lyon or Reimer, or they'll come back to the pack.
Yeah, I mean, right now DeBrincat's a point per game. He's never done that his entire career. So history says he won't do it this year.
Well, we should connect something to the couple of the teams that we were talking about, because I know that Elliot Friedman was talking about it over the weekend about Kane, and it sounds like Kane, the teams that are in the lead are Detroit, Florida, to a lesser extent Buffalo. I don't believe he'll go to Buffalo because Buffalo is a train wreck right now. He floated Dallas's name and Boston's name and mentioned that Toronto would talk to him, but it sounds like Detroit and Florida that are the 2 teams.
Yeah. I've been saying for you guys know off the record for over a year now that Kane's going to go to Florida. I wasn't really able to say it too much.
And of all of those teams, I think you're right. I think that's the most likely. And
there's just a fit there for him, and it's there's a big USA hockey thing going on there. It's a big. It makes sense for him to go, and it's from what I'm understanding, I don't know if it's been out yet in the rec anywhere, and this is just from what I'm understanding. Right. Is that he is going to be visiting some of these places, and some of these teams and talking to people about, and checking out these areas and stuff like that as well. And not that he hasn't been to these cities before, but, for crying out loud, if you look at, you're visiting Florida or Detroit in December, Florida's going to look pretty nice.
The only thing that's concerning, Ek, is they kept saying he'll be ready 2 months into the season, and he's clearly not ready.
Well, no, he says he's ready. He's just doing his tour. But this is the thing. Okay. And we've still not gotten any kind of clarification from Pat Brisson, and we're not going to, because they would not negotiate publicly. But it's the whole, he wants to play with a contender versus 1 year or multiple years. If it's multiple years, there's no way he's going to be able to play with a contender, because they can't sign, like the most they can sign him for, like a team like Florida, who's right up against the cap, is a 1 year deal with incentives.
They have money coming up, though. Florida's got money coming up next year.
Right, but the problem is this year they don't have any money, and you're talking about signing him to if you sign him to a 1 year contract with incentives, league minimum 775. If the incentives based on games played or goals or whatever, those incentives go on to next year's cap. So you could sign him to an incentive-based deal. But if he wants money that's not based on incentives, he's not going to Florida. He might go to Buffalo or a Detroit because they have cap space. It's all based on what he wants. If he wants to win another Stanley Cup, he's going to have to take less money for 1 year. Do I buy that he's going to do that? Not really.
I do. I don't think he's about money. I really don't. I mean, of all the players, I've been saying this forever about him. I think he was willing to play for the Rangers if it went half decent for them. He was willing to play for them for very little money. It didn't go half decent with them, and there was some bad blood there now. So it doesn't happen. But I do think that I don't think he's about the money. I think he is about winning. I think winning is a big deal to him.
Well, then Florida.
In the back of my mind,
I see the hole here. If Florida feels like their defense is healthy, they could get rid of Mikkola and the $2.5 million, and they could pay Kane $2.5 million.
Yeah, that's what they would do probably. I mean, and
that's what I see them doing if they do it.
You could look at a $25 million this year, $5 million next year type deal, something like that.
No, I mean they might just pay him 2.5 straight through for like 3 years.
Right, you can't structure a deal that way because if it's 2.5 this year and $5 million next year,
yeah, you're not going to.
Then his contract's $3.75 million.
You're not going to do that. I think it'll be like 2. I think he might take 2.5 for the next 3 years.
Yeah, no, you never realize what Kane does bring to it. Like it brings to to Florida, because obviously it brings a lot to that city as far as like another superstar name. And also the fact that just the jerseys that Patrick Kane sells wherever he ends up is like a big, like money wise, they'll get the money back for him. It's not like it's not.
Florida just had their first sellout. Everybody went goo goo gaga.
I know. No, and it is baffling to me. The fans down there don't support them more than they do. But because I mean, I think almost everybody in the NHL would take my dog.
A team like Florida, yeah.
See my dog over top of the piano there. That's hilarious. Just. So anyway, I think I could see it with Florida. I mean, I'm impressed by what they're doing. Again, like you said, I mean, the fact they're doing this without, I think Montour is probably one of their most valuable players out. Without Montour,
he is, and he's not going to be as good as last year, but he's still pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, Ekblad is Ekblad. He's really solid always, but I think Montour is even more important. So as it plays out, we'll see where they go. Now we have to go, of course, to some disappointments on this list. So who and there's 6 of teams I came up with that all have playoff aspirations.
But hold on, chat room says Thomas is saying that there's an Islanders trade that's imminent. So we'll keep doing the show and hopefully Thomas can report this to us.
Well, is it as big as the Tice Thompson for Andre Durando deal that they made yesterday?
I don't think it'll be as big as that, Mike, but we'll see.
I will look into it. I will text somebody. But all right, so let's skip past Edmonton for a second because obviously Mike has been dumping on Edmonton as much as he possibly can while I've been away.
Oh no, of course.
I'm there too. They're not making the playoffs now.
Well, no, they have 15 points in 20 games. Okay, so they are 12 points off 20 game.
Yeah, but I'll just say this. I could not believe how, a lot of writers that I respect are doing like huzzahs and handsprings, bending over backwards to say, well, because of the Western Conference and the way things are going right now, it could be 90 points that makes the playoffs, meaning that Edmonton could get in. Give me a friggin' break. It's usually 90.
Over the last decade, Mike, at least, no team with 15 points or below at 20-game mark has made the playoffs. Okay, so there's zero chance there. If you just based on, they would be the first to do that. That's a tough number to swallow. But let's move past.
I never like taking 0% odds. That's just me. I'm not a gambler, but
yeah, there's always going to be somebody who does it, right? So I get.
I guess.
No, it's true. I mean, whenever you take 0%, it's like I hate that too. New Jersey is another one, 19 points in 19 games. So they're the reason I did this whole thing last year because they had 27 points in 20 games.
Now this is the funny thing. Now I'm like, they're going to make it. They have to do better than this. Last year I would have been like, yes, this makes sense.
Right. Like Edmonton, neither of these New Jersey missing the playoffs like Edmonton would be devastating. Like the Devils cannot miss the playoffs. Just can't.
No, they can't. No.
And okay, you have to make an excuse that Nico Hischier was out for almost a month, And that was the reason why
Yeah.
Brendan Smith was stalking Connor Clifton like a stalker. Because
forward. Brendan Smith was playing forward.
And that was the whole reason, Russ. They played him at forward, so when they lost him, they're thinking they're going to lose him to a misconduct. They would still have 6 defensemen.
Right.
So, but yeah, he went after Connor Clifton, and Clifton after the game said basically, well, I know this is not over because it was only a 2-minute roughing. So they were so pissed off that he had a hit. And I thought it was he got suspended for a couple games, but it wasn't like a predatory Rafi Torres type of hit, but it's their best player. And without him, they slumped.
Let's realize
he's important.
What's that? I mean that, like,
you locked up there for a second. Go ahead.
I'm coming back. Can you hear me now?
Yep. Go ahead.
You see me? I can't see me. Anyway, that's fine.
No, we can see you. Go ahead.
Cool. So, I mean, and this low New Jersey point total comes with Jack Hughes having a hell of a start, like an unbelievable start. That's what makes this all the more concerning. Now you could say that Hischier obviously is going to hurt them.
Right, but they were without both Hischier
you got to find a way to get that. They
were without both of them.
Yeah.
So that's the excuse.
It's an excuse, but it's not legitimate. Like, to me, like, I think that when it all comes down to it, my background.
I think it's legitimate when you lose your top 2 centers. I mean, but they're back now, and now I think that they're going to probably, they're not like way out of it that they can't make it. I mean, it's early enough, but they've got where I think the concern is they don't have great goaltending.
And they're looking for goaltending for sure. I mean, they are out there pursuing goaltending. Whether or not they can get it or not, there's a couple teams pursuing goaltending. So, I mean, Edmonton's pursuing goaltending. There's other teams pursuing goaltending. So, the next biggest disappointment in my mind is Ottawa. Ottawa, 19 points in 19 games.
Yeah, Ottawa, they're disappointing.
I mean, they I didn't think they were going to run away with this thing, but I would have thought they would have been they would have been a bubble team at this point, and they're not. They're last in their division. And 19 points in 19 games is brutal for them right now. I mean, changing a GM doesn't do much for you on the ice. It's not like that's not the big change that they make there. So
no, and Korpisalo hasn't exactly, first of all, Anton Forsberg is Anton Forsberg, so that's not a shock. Korpisalo has been okay, but not great. But when you're playing Forsberg 7 games and his save percentage is a blazing .850. Yeah. I think one of those dummies that you put in front of the net when you practice stops more pucks than Anton Forsberg at times.
Yeah, I mean,
I disagree with that.
Another team that's a huge disappointment, Minnesota, like the Wild. 14.
I've gotten word, Eck, and we've seen it, and I talked about it about a month ago. These are the final days of Dean Evason. It's just a matter of when.
They, to me, are the most disappointing team because 14 points in 18 games. They were a team. The thing about them is they're always consistent. They might never run away with it, but they're always in this thing. For them to be looking this far out of it right now is completely unheard of. And you're right. Devison's got to be towards his end right here. I can't disagree with that at all. But they're just not getting, and they're not getting it done. I mean, and it's kind of crazy. They looked good in the beginning. They were a team that started off relatively well in the first couple of days, first couple games of the season. But now, the next team on my list is Pittsburgh. They have 20 points in 20 games. Again, that's not when you look at teams with 20 points in 20 games. Only I think something like 12 of them in 10 years have made the playoffs.
Well,
if you have 20 or less,
I still would give them a better chance than that because they do have some proven winners on the team.
Yes.
I have seen some good interaction now with Carlson and Letang. Mike disagrees, but it helped beat the Leafs for sure.
Well, I was going to say if they could play the Leafs 82 games, they'd be a guaranteed spot. But
Jerry needs to be a little more consistent, no question. But I still think there's something there.
But I saw them in person on Friday against Buffalo, and they played 2 really good periods. And then Buffalo got a burr in their saddle and blew past them like they were standing still. And that's the problem. I think they're a slow even with Carlson, they're a slow team. You can see the wear on the tires when it comes to guys like, even though Malkin is still great, that's the thing. There's not a lot there other than the big names.
And
you also saw them without Rust. Rust is an important guy.
Right. It was without Rust. But Russ, when on your second line, one of the wingers is Alex Nylander, you suck.
Well, also, what's his name? Raquel's out. Like Raquel and Rust are out.
Right. But Alex Nylander, Russ.
I know. Listen, he scored as many points as William Nylander that game. So
I'm talking to somebody right now about the Islanders thing. Just talk for a second more so I can. The next team I have, if you want to go on to them, is in my disappointing world is Nashville, the Predators.
I had no expectations. Right. Nobody should be disappointed in Nashville because I think when Trotz took over and he was picking up everybody on the waiver wire, that is a clear indication that he had no idea that they could score this year, and that's going to be a problem.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where they are on your list, Act, but, right here in River City, there's a lot of disappointed Buffalo fans.
Yeah, Sabres are high on my list.
I mean, because right now they're 9-10-1. They've been over 500 for one game this year. And this is a team that everybody thought was going to make the playoffs or at least challenge for the playoffs. Right now, they're not challenging. They're not scoring on the power play. They're not scoring 5-on-5. And this is a team that scored almost 300 goals last year. They're a little better defensively. But the biggest miscalculation, and I will say this till the cows come home, is that the calculation at the beginning of the year to go with Devin Levi, a 21-year-old kid coming out of the NCAA with 7 games of experience and expecting him to be your number one goaltender was just a complete miscalculation. I don't know why they did it. They could have hedged their bets and gone and signed a veteran like a Cam Talbot who's playing great in LA right now. They could have used that. But now they're, right now their season depends on Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen being consistent enough because he's been the best of the 3 goaltenders. And it's just, I mean, if your season relies on him, who's a guy who's never been consistent in his NHL career, you're in trouble.
No, and my sources aren't seeing anything on the Islanders making a trade right now. But I don't know if that Thomas, you might have somebody. You
Thomas, your sources are crap. Sorry,
I'm not saying they're crap now because who might have said that? But.
Was it Hockey Insider that messaged that?
Listen, Hockey Insider seems to be posting again.
Yeah, I know.
I don't even want to say what he posted. It's ridiculous.
So someone told me that's out to me. Do you know how the Islanders got Sorokin? Do you know how they got him? They drafted him, obviously. But where they got that draft pick that they traded from?
I knew they got it from somewhere. Yeah,
probably
crazy. This is a crazy one. No, it came from Philadelphia in the Andrew McDonald trade.
That's right.
How about that? The Andrew McDonald trade.
Andrew McDonald hurt the Flyers in many ways.
That's a crazy thing to think about. Like Sorokin, who's came in the Andrew McDonald trade.
Well, how about this? When Lindy Ruff was traded from Buffalo to the New York Rangers, the Rangers gave Buffalo, I think it was a 5th round pick. The 5th round pick turned out to be Alexander McGillney.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, that's a crazy pick because, Alexander.
Yeah, that's a crazy pick.
They picked in the 5th round only because people didn't think he would come over. I mean, obviously he's another. There was no question he was talented, right? Like that's not a question at all.
No, it was just the ability to get him. That was,
Yeah, I mean, I didn't put Buffalo as a disappointment as much as I probably should have.
Yes, you should have.
But I did put Seattle as a disappointment. 21 points in 22 games.
I picked them out. So I'm not disappointed, but I'm just saying I knew there was something flat. It's still there's something flat, and. These are the ebbs and flows, I think, when, again, we can't count Vegas as the normal team because they've definitely mortgaged a lot of the future and did get some really good winners in there. Seattle's doing it differently. And so last year they definitely played above. And this year it's kind of like they're just on that up and down.
Yeah. Let me correct myself. It was McGillney was traded for Paul Sear, not Lindy.
That's much better.
That's much worse.
That's I don't know why I always put Paul Sear with Paul Lawless in my head, but remember
both failed 1st round picks, maybe.
Remember Paul Lawless though? Remember him? He was
Hartford Whalers.
Yeah, I don't remember him for some reason.
He was on the Flyers for a bit too. He was all over. Yeah, Lawless. I actually liked Lawless in a lot of ways. He but he didn't have he never had a great career, but he was always looked like he should be having a great career. Like when you saw him on the ice,
he had one good year.
He reminds me a lot of Duran. Like now, like I think that Duran is, it's a similar type of thing. I mean, Duran first scored a goal finally the other day from on a pass from
Nathan McKinnon.
Where McKinnon, everyone went crazy. We all expected that a little bit more than like one of those.
I did. You guys were all like, he's going to be reunited. I kind of lost on Duran at that point.
Yeah.
And it feels
so people want to know rumors that I have right now.
Might go get sued.
I'll try it. Basically, rumor-wise right now.
Before you do the rumor, what do you feel about the Hall & Oates lawsuit when you have two guys, a writing tandem, suing each other over publishing rights, apparently?
How do you prove
nobody wins?
How do you prove what you wrote and what you didn't write unless somebody?
No, it's not that. You know what it is? It's who Oates, I guess, was selling his publishing rights to. It has something to do with Hall didn't want it sold to them, and so that's when he did the restraining order. That's what I heard.
So this is like a Taylor Swift Scooter Braun thing type of thing.
Kind of, but the music thing is so weird because when you think about the songwriters get the money. Like there's money, the money comes to songwriters. That's kind of like if the NFL was like based on offensive coordinators, right? Like the plays might be good,
right?
But if you don't have good players, the songs might be good. If you don't have good players, the songs aren't what they are. You know what I mean? So to me, my band at least, we always split everything. Even though I wrote 90% of the songs, we split everything because it just was like to me.
I think that's the right way to do it. Like if everybody's there contributing, even though those words may have come in your head, you're all collaborating.
That's the way Genesis did it. They split it equally. So
Yep.
And Yes ended up doing it that way too because similar reason. It's like it's hard to have all these guys in a room and say, well, that's my drum beat. Well, that's your word.
Although Steve,
and people, it's not just even if you wrote the entire song, like there are songs I wrote the drum beats to it, everything to it. Even then, you can't sit there and say that your band isn't the reason it does well. Like you can't sit there and say that the singer. If you have a bad singer and you write a great song, nothing's going to happen.
Well, that's why like the whole Lennon McCartney thing is sort of unfair. Like, Lennon had nothing to do with the song Yesterday, but it's under Lennon McCartney, so it's split 50-50.
Right. But because of that, they never had to fight, and that's the big thing about that. Them not including George Harrison and Ringo Starr, and that caused all kinds of problems. You know what I mean?
Right. But that's why Harrison started to write himself, and because of the money, and he ended up.
Harrison was the best songwriter of the Beatles too. For a couple of years there, Harrison wrote the best songs.
Well, one of them was through a Dream, so I don't know if that was the best.
So let's talk about rumors here a little bit. And,
please.
So we will be getting more into rumors in the next couple of days. A rumor chart I started working on. The rumor chart usually launches at the end of November. So we will get some things there for sure. And I think we're going to look into that more as we get there. But, Hanifin is a name that has come up, and we're asking about him. I definitely think he's going to get moved. There's a lot of players that are going to get moved here. But I think one of the things to look at mostly is one of the things I've been chasing is Couturier, who I think is going to be a really interesting trade deadline player. On many levels. Like I believe Couturier will get moved if he stays healthy.
That many years left?
Yep.
You'd have to be insane. You'd have to be insane to take that deal on. Really,
It
depends how healthy he stays. Now, if he shows any signs of injuries again,
I'm going to go this route. I'm going to say he's going to be healthy all year. But this version of Sean Couturier is even slower than the last version. He is good on faceoffs. He is good defensively, but he's not even close to a point-a-game player. Like you're talking about getting a guy. What does he have? 5 more years?
6 more years at $7.75 million.
Players are going to have to eat a ton of that contract.
They will.
But I still think it could happen. I still think it could happen. And Boston has a lot of interesting Couturier. That's something I've heard over and over and over again. The Bruins, now if you put him into that lineup, he actually is something that Boston could use. Like he would actually.
There's no question they could use him.
He would work well with the Bruins. He would give them that defensive center that they don't have right now for the playoffs. A guy who can check, the top four.
Actually, I think they have the checking line center. A guy like Coyle is a third.
Yeah, but you're going to get like DeBrusque and Lysell, and you're not going to get like a potential star in return.
I don't think you're getting even that.
Yeah,
with Boston having to take on 6 more years at $7.75 million. Good luck.
Yeah, I don't know what you're going to get. I mean, it's going to be.
You might get Lysell and a pick.
You're getting John Beecher and an order of clam chowder.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, that's I don't know. I think that he's going to be one. Travis Sanheim is going to be another that I still think will get moved. And his stock is.
I don't think he's getting moved in season though.
I think it could. I mean, I don't think there's anything the Flyers won't do towards the future. They are really looking at this as a completely future world. So they're not going to. If they can make anything.
Okay, then this is what I want to know.
Mm-hmm.
If you have all these thoughts that they're looking to the future, then why do they have a coach that's playing all the veteran defensemen that's talking about winning? There seems to be a disconnect here in what you're saying and what he's saying.
There's absolutely a disconnect. And I don't. It is one of those things that is really concerning and confusing a little bit that they're going this route. Obviously stuff like with Morgan Frost, that Morgan Frost will also get moved, I think, and
I think we all agree that would happen.
I hope
not good.
Well, but this is the thing. You would think that the guys that they would be more likely to trade are the guys on short-term deals like Atkinson, like Konechny. Walker is somebody who's having a good year. That they could probably get a draft pick for him, and that they would be playing their kids. But they're going down this road of until they have their midseason collapse, until they have the chance, until the chances of them making the playoffs are completely dead. They're going to sell this fallacy to their fan base that they're actually contending for a playoff spot, which they're not.
No, they're not. And but I don't think that they're selling it to their fans as much as it's just happening.
No, I don't think they're selling it, but Torts is just selling winning, and right now they're in a playoff spot. So while they won't use the word, Torts won't. He believes he could stay in that spot, or he wouldn't be doing the things he's doing.
Yes.
But I don't even think he's doing all the right things to stay in that spot. That's the funny thing.
I agree with that too. I don't think he's either, but they are not. There is a very big, broad difference between between the coaches and the GMs and the president.
There has to be.
But what I think why I think it's okay for Jones and Briere to do this for them is that they are really looking at him like, okay, he is going to make us more competitive than we should be. There's going to be a much more of a push to play younger players as the year goes on. There's no question about that. Some of these older players.
We're already 20-something games into it, so I don't know if it's going to be a push until, like what Mike said, until it's obvious that they're not competing anymore.
I mean, I think but I think what they like about Torts is they feel like he is giving them at least this attitude back of like fighting for points, fighting for wins. Which they missed for many years. So to them, that's like a thing that goes back to Hackstall times,
But at what cost, Dak? I mean, the thing is, okay, you might increase the value of some of your players with this combative sis boom ba rah rah bull crap that Tortorella is pushing. But for a guy like Frost, who I think you could have gotten maybe a low first round pick for had you been playing him, had he been scoring the way he scored last year, I think you've ruined his value in terms of trading him. I think you get a third round pick for the guy because he doesn't play, and that's not beneficial to your organization. So they've misused that situation.
Like, here's something that I would tell management: they should read the quotes from opposing teams and players every game. And here's what I got out of the Rangers locker room after they beat the Flyers.
Yeah.
So remember, Hathaway tried in the first period to get Trouba off the ice in a fight because they probably figured, hey, if we get Trouba out of this game, we got a chance of winning this game. Trouba doesn't bite. Will Cully, the rookie, goes in there, fights. He takes all the penalty minutes. Trouba's still on the ice. After the game, Trouba goes, I wasn't going to go with him there. That wasn't the right time of the game. But that was the kind of thinking strategy that the Flyers had to take him out. So that's one thing. So then the top line, you know that Mika Zibanejad has a history of doing well against the Flyers, right?
Right.
So I asked Blake Wheeler, because I don't know if you noticed that in that game, they were spreading out their passing. They were making sure these are guys that can make those passes, that they weren't getting mixed up in the fray of getting shots blocked or clogged in the middle. So I asked him about that. And I said to Blake Wheeler, what about that? What about not going near the middle with her? And he goes, listen, we're playing against a Torts team. We know he's going to block the lanes. We decided we would be patient and we would make these passes and it would pay off. Now, again, if you listen to the other team, these are tried and true things that this coach has always done.
Yeah.
So there's nothing revolutionary happening other than what you said, the culture. But how long are you going to ride that?
Yeah, I think it's a year. I think it's a year at most. And I think that I think, that's all you'll see is a year at most. I can't imagine. And I think if somebody became available that they really liked, if a coach became available suddenly for some reason, like a fire from another situation that they really like, I think you could see it quicker too.
Okay.
Dallas.
I think that right now they just don't have anybody that they want to sell to, and all they really want is to get a culture back a little bit. And they're putting a lot on that culture. And I don't think it's all wrong to put a lot on that culture.
Yeah, I think last year for the culture it was right. Yeah. I think this year, like basically, and I just saw quotes from Danny Briere, from Keith Jones saying, hey, Danny and I have been through what Morgan's been through. Yeah. But the problem is you signed this guy to play. You didn't sign this guy to go through tough times when there's really not tough times. There shouldn't be any tough times. Like he's had 2 assists in his last 5 games without barely playing. And if you watch the last game, you can see he's got vision that other guys on the team don't have.
I know.
And so like there's things going on that could all be corrected, and they're not going to be. So now you have to believe management, if they like Frost, will not trade him.
Right.
We'll see though.
Yeah. I mean, you're running into towards kind of being him, like stereotypical self in this situation. Like he's doing, like he's taking a Morgan Frost, who's like a younger kid, who grew up like a little bit, with a dad who was in hockey and just, a little bit privileged type person. And that Torts hates those kind of players, right? So he sees those kind of players as like, okay, he's skilled, but he's privileged. But we would rather have the unprivileged guys.
But okay. I think that's misconstruing things, because honestly, I know Morgan Frost. He's not a spoiled, privileged kid. He's a pretty hardworking kid with a lot of skill. And I think Torts is doing this because he doesn't like the type of player that he is.
Yeah.
He's not a worker. He's a skill guy. And Torts is playing his bull crap games because of it.
Well, here's something else, Zach. I talked about this a few days ago, and it kind of came to fruition on the Black Friday game. So I was wondering how the Flyers would react being at home for Thanksgiving, where I thought the Rangers would come in that morning and have a morning skate and at least be there as a team and kind of be like revved up as a team. Guess what? The Rangers pulled the old Emile Francis thing, and they went the night before. So they went the night before, even on Thanksgiving, all stayed together. So if anybody in the chat room is wondering why the Flyers look bad on their first 2 goals, it's because one team was prepared and another team wasn't.
Yeah.
Fan overdose.
That's really interesting. That's
a coaching strategy. Like that's
coaching strategy, and this close, and there's players, like there's a lot of like complaining wives and complaining families about this because they're in a situation, where hey, there's a holiday going on here, and you're going to take us out, the day before. That's tricky. It's tricky, and they did it. But the Rangers are committing. They're showing they're committed.
The Rangers could have been at home for the holidays and bust in on Friday morning. And they didn't do that.
Yeah. No. The last thing I want to talk about is Nylander briefly because his name keeps coming up, and it's the craziest thing is obviously he's doing the Nylander thing, which is not just his dad did the same thing, which is that playing really well in contract years.
Well, let me just to provide you an update, because Brad Treliving talked to the Toronto media today and came out and said, we love what Willie's doing. We're talking to him, and we're going to get this done. So he's keeping up the, I can't say facade, because I'm sure they're in contact with Louis Gross and Michael Nylander. Yeah. But I keep saying this. if the demand is over $10 million, it will cripple the Leafs. So I don't think they can do it. And I don't think they will do it.
The demand is over $10 million, and it will. So at the end of the day, what are they going to ride him out this year, or are they going to trade him? And the question is that's going to be the big question, I think, because I've heard that they're going to ride it out. They're not going to trade him, and they'll lose him for nothing if they have to. And the reason that they'll do that is because that this team has to succeed in the playoffs. They have to, and they feel like, okay, if he's going to keep playing that way for a contract, let him play that way for a contract. We'll benefit from it. Versus, like Brian Burke came on the radio the other day and says they have to trade him. They have to trade him.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you have to trade him. His value will never be higher than it is right now, Ak. That's what I mean. No question about that. But the problem is his value was really low before, and people. But now, it's raising because he's coming off a really good year last year, and he started this year really well too. So this is the longest period of time Nylander has played consistently well, right? This is when you can think about it, like there really haven't been any super slumps in that period of time. There've been a few, but everybody has slumps, right? So,
and when he'll start slumping the day after he signs that big contract.
No, I don't believe that. He's a good player, Mike. He's a good player.
No, but Russ, he's always been a talented player and a good player. But the problem is he's always been questionable in terms of motivation. He's motivated the last 2 years.
Okay, whatever. But you know what? At the end of the day, he still is able to survive and produce in Toronto when many others fail.
Right. And there's going to be a lot of pressure to keep him. How they're going to do that.
They have a choice, Zach. That's what I've been saying since the summer. Yeah. They don't have a choice because if nothing else, they could do this. If they want to make someone like Mike happy, you sign him now, and in 2 years, if the cap does go up incredibly, there'll be a market for Nylander then too, because he'll still have points. He'll have a few years off his deal, and you could still trade him then.
Yeah, but the problem is, Russ, is that he'll get a no-move clause in the deal.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. He might at some point.
It does matter because they can control where they want to go, and then by controlling where they want to go, by controlling where they want to go, that controls how much you can get for the player.
Do you think for a minute there's any top player in the NHL that you could get signed for a no move without a no move? No.
Yeah, no, it's not possible.
It's not possible.
It's not possible, especially because they can't go to $12 million. They got to keep this within reason. And if they're going to go to $10 million, if it's going to be $10 million or under, it's got a full no move clause.
And I know that you've noticed this, but when a great player, or at least who another team thinks is a great player, like Bo Horvath gets traded, they always get a no move when they get traded.
That's my point. My point. If your purpose is to sign Nylander and then trade him 2 years down the road, if he's got a no move clause and he doesn't want to play anywhere else other than Toronto, he's not going anywhere.
2 years that he won't accept a trade to somewhere else. You don't know that.
But it's not under the team's control.
It's never going to be under the team's control. Top players. Go ahead. Name me top players that have been signed recently that the teams have full control over and they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Well, Russ,
and that aren't young, that aren't like, on their first
contract. You really haven't seen it at all. Like, and I agree. And it's going to depend on where they are. Like if they get the trade deadline and they're not in the playoffs, and it looks like, which I can't imagine being the case. Like I still think they're a playoff team. But if they're in the playoffs, they're going to ride it out with them. I believe that 150% they're going to ride it out.
Right, but that's a mistake. Because then all Brad Treliving is doing is repeating the Johnny Gaudreau scenario all over again.
Do you think he's doing anything brilliant at the moment? I don't.
What do you mean?
What is Brad Treliving doing that's any different than any other Leafs GM in the first season that he got it? He filled in all these holes in the offseason. Yeah. Maybe you got one good player out of it, and the rest is garbage.
Well, I don't think Domi has played like garbage, and I don't think Bertuzzi has played like garbage.
No, Bertuzzi is the one good thing. Maybe Domi hasn't played like garbage, but you had a defenseman that played like garbage, and now, of course, he's off the team. He's on the LTIR.
Right, he got hurt, Russ. I mean,
he's not a good player.
Well, no, he got hurt.
Was he playing well, Mike?
After he got hurt, no. Before he got hurt?
Playing well. Come on.
Before he got hurt? He got hurt in the 4th game of the year.
Yeah, he wasn't a good signing. You know it, and I know it.
No, I thought it was a risk worth taking because he was a right-hand shot defenseman, and he was a guy who could play the first power play instead of Morgan Riley.
The Ryan Reeves signing was a bad
Ryan
signing.
Reeves signing was an abysmal. The Ryan Reeves signing was an abysmal, stupid failure.
That's what I'm saying. So what has Bradshaw Living really done so far?
Well, Russ, again, I thought
2 good signings, 2 bad signings.
I thought I thought 2 signings were good. 1 signing was because you didn't know what you were going to get, and then he got hurt, and the 1 signing was abysmal. You know, nobody has 1,000 dead.
I mean, Matthews did get done. You know,
that
was going to get done anyhow.
It was, but I think it got done at a reasonable rate.
I'm just saying, based on what you're living left in Calgary and has done done so far in Toronto, I don't see a great track record at the moment. I know he's a good guy. I know he talks to everybody, but I'm just saying, I'm just talking about results.
I know
Right.
Flamester would probably disagree, but I think the situation in Calgary was something that was. I mean.
It can't be all on ownership. It can't.
No. I wasn't going to say that. But the whole thing was Goudreau did not want to stay in Calgary. And the thing was he strung him along until after the deadline and then refused to sign.
You got to be smarter as a GM and know
Right. And that's, Russ, why I'm saying they have to trade Nylander if they can't get him signed. They have to.
Are you willing to not make the playoffs? Are you willing to not make the playoffs if you trade, but trade Nylander?
Well, it depends on what you get.
No, but I mean, just at the end of the day.
Let's say you get the Michael Jello return.
Let's say you get let's say you get draft picks down the line or whatever.
Yes.
You're willing to miss the playoff. You're willing to blow the year off.
Well, they have their 1st round pick next year, so yeah.
So how many of the Leafs fans, what percentage do you think are in your corner?
Oh, probably not a lot because Russ, this is a fan base who is happy when they win on Saturday night on Hockey Night in Canada. Back in the day, they were sitting there with their 12 packs of Molsons and happy if they won on Saturday night, even though they were in last place in the Norris division. Okay, they're short-sighted sometimes. I look at what the long-term goal, which was why I was an advocate of tanking for so long, because you didn't get Tavares, you got Nazem Kadri. How did that go, folks? You know,
how you got Matthews and Marner, but how's that going? You know, like, I mean, you can.
They're 2 of the best players in the league. The problem is you have to surround them with other players.
Haven't done anything. Like, you still. And the reality is, like, they still haven't won. And until they
signed
win,
the same coach, they didn't do anything different with coaching.
And I think that's a huge mistake. And I think that, unfortunately, I mean, as much as
to that, Mike.
Yeah,
about Keefe.
Yeah, I mean, Treliving kept the same coach. He's a new GM. He could have come in and changed it by getting a different coach. He chose not to.
And basically, the calculation was that there was too much change in the organization with Dubas leaving, so they wanted some stability, and they didn't think Keefe was the problem.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, at some point you have to.
What option?
Right now, he's the owner of their record.
What option was out there? Bruce Boudreau?
No, there's always other options.
There's other options.
What option was out there?
I mean, you're right. I mean, in terms of the fact there's no like big name, but
no massive name, you would have to go with a name that you would say you might have kept Carberry. You might have. And Carberry's outperforming Keefe. What do you say about that?
Right. You know, I mean,
I'm not saying I'm going to stick with that for the whole year, but I'm just saying, what if Spencer Carberry was the guy and Keefe got signed instead? Like, what if you find out that the Capitals do make the playoffs this year? Then what do you say? Why would you let Carberry go?
Right.
He was never a consideration for coach. Why? Because they didn't think he was ready, and they thought they had a better coach. They thought they had a better coach.
Well, but this coach you already knew what this coach could and couldn't do down the road. You had no idea what Carberry was going to be. Nobody.
Right, and it could be worse, Ross.
Well, right now it's not, but it could be.
Right, it could.
But right now it's not.
Yeah. Right now it's not. I wanted to touch base on one thing that really quickly, and that is Hellebuck versus Carter Hart battle that we set up.
Oh yeah.
How's that going, Ak?
I wanted to check it. I haven't seen it for a while. So what are we looking at here? So I'm just trying to. I want to get their numbers here and see. Remember, the battle was save percentage, right? I said
okay.
Carter Hart better save percentage.
Right now, Hellebuck is at 908 save percentage, 2.65 goals against.
Right.
And Carter Hart is at 911 save percentage and 2.53. So they're basically even.
Yeah. They're right there with each other. That's fine.
They're right there with each other. It's going to be a battle all year, but that was the point.
Good battle. I think it's a good battle.
Yeah, but I think in the end, when Philadelphia hits reality and they start to suck like they do, then Carter Hart's.
Yeah, they're not.
No, it's going to be harder for him to keep it going for sure than it is Hellebuck. But because
right now it's not outrageous. No.
Right now, no, I never, and I think that that's why I do think that Carter Hart has to get more credit than he's getting still, and he's playing really well this year again. Like he's
great. I don't know anybody that doesn't think he's playing great.
Yeah, no, and I still think that he's
not an elite goalie. We have to say that he is not, and there's very few elite goalies.
I very much disagree with that. I do. I think that
he's as good as Sorokin and Shesterkin.
Well, I'm not going to put him in that category. I mean, if you want to put, is he the top 3 or 4 in the league? No,
but that's elite. That's all there are.
He's top 10 in my mind, which is like.
But all 10 goalies are not elite. That's my point.
Yeah,
I mean, and he's but I think he's one of the 2 best, like we were talking about before, for Team Canada. I think it comes down to
that's
him.
not saying much, Ek.
Yeah,
Canada's goaltending is pretty weak.
It is.
But it's going to be better. I mean, that's why I think it's going to be actually better with Carter Hart and the guy from Dallas. I can't think of right now, right?
Well, Jarry's a part of that.
No, but the guy from Dallas is.
Ottinger's American.
Ottinger's American. Nuts. Right, I'm confused. Right. So no, I'm going
to find out a lot of the good goalies are American.
I know that for sure.
Unless UC Saros defects from Switzerland, Canada's in trouble.
Yeah, no, I think, and I still think Canada. I think Carter Hart's going to be the Canadian starting goalie at the Olympics next year.
I don't know. A lot has to happen. Right now, he can't. Technically, he can't.
Right. Because he's banned by the international.
Right.
Technically, you can't do that. Okay, yeah. So.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
All right, folks. It doesn't mean it won't change. I'm not like that. Could be right. It could change.
Hopefully, it changes for him for his sake. But again, that what happened happened. Anyway, let's continue. Let's move on. We'll be back again soon, guys. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. Enjoy the games. And we'll talk to you soon. Good to be back. Thanks, guys, for watching.